Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, November 11th, 5:26 a.m. Central Time. Grain markets are mixed this morning. December corn futures up a half cent at 4.27. January soybeans up 2.5 at 10.10 and a quarter. December Chicago wheat down 1 3/4 at 5.39 and a quarter. December Kansas City wheat down 1.5 at 5.39 and a quarter. December spring wheat is up 1 3/4 at 5.72 3/4. We want to know if Trump's going to be good for farmers in the grain markets. Let's start off with that.
So, Trump's proposed tariffs are expected to curb soybean exports to China. However, the tariffs may also restrict imported oils, leading to greater demand for U.S. soybean oil for biodiesel production. There's also optimism that Trump's policies will prevent imported biofuel feedstocks from receiving 45Z tax credits. If tariffs reduce soybean exports, the resulting larger and cheaper domestic supply is anticipated to drive an expansion in U.S. crushing capacity. With that being said, there are concerns that tariffs could raise construction costs, potentially hindering crush expansion.
I believe common wisdom. I think people think that Trump is generally bad for the grain markets. And let's just talk about the grain markets and not farmers necessarily. Let's phrase it that way. I made a list of things. The first part of my list is bad/bearish with regard to the grain markets. And the second part is good/friendly. Let's get the bad out of the way first. Okay. Trump has essentially promised 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico. Mexico is our largest corn buyer. Trump has promised tariffs 60 to 100% on imports from China. China is our largest soybean buyer. So right off the bat, you're thinking trade war. This is going to be very bad. We're going to lose export demand in corn and in soybeans, our two largest buyers in play here. Trump's EPA pick, we discussed this earlier in the week, Lee Zeldin, he's anti-biofuel. Trump has called Biden's climate agenda the Green New Scam. The Green New Deal is the Green New Scam. How much of that Green New Deal is going to be gutted? How much of the biofuel stuff is going to be gutted? We don't know. Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, Trump announced Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State pick, and Marco Rubio hates China. He's a China hawk, and he believes that China is inherently like the enemy of the United States. So there's a lot of things that can be perceived as being negative or bearish with regard to the grain markets. Now, in my good/friendly column, here's what I wrote. In all likelihood, Trump will slap tariffs on imported used cooking oil from China and elsewhere, and also imported sugar ethanol from Brazil. That could result in U.S. biofuel manufacturers using more domestic feedstock for biofuels. I just don't know that happens right away. You can only build out the crush expansion so quickly, and we're adding new crush plants. There's new stuff coming online, but it's not going to happen overnight. The thing that I wrote also here with a question mark behind it was trade deal possible, and then before a trade war starts, question mark. In 2016, Trump and his trade warish tendencies were very much an unknown. Nobody knew what to expect. It was a big wild card. I think China and Mexico this time around, I think they know what to expect. I think China knows exactly what's going to happen. So could you make the case that something could be negotiated before a trade war even starts? I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility. I don't think it's crazy at all to think that that's possible, that Mexico and China look at the United States and say, they're such a huge trade partner. They're an economic powerhouse. We don't want any part of this trade war. We're going to come to the table and negotiate before the tariffs even start. I think that's a possibility. I think that there's some stuff regarding biofuel guidance, like your 45Z that we've been waiting on forever. I think that we now have a more clear picture of the leadership situation, so that maybe first quarter next year, we finally get some news and some guidance. Here's one thing that's of extreme interest. Corn futures are up 8 to 9 cents since election day. Soybean futures are up 9 to 10 cents since election day. So I just think that Trump in general is much more of a known commodity this time around. I think the markets had a pretty good, there was a very strong chance before the election that Trump was going to be elected. That's what happened. It wasn't a huge shock. And the markets honestly have acted fairly well. So I mean, does this have to be all negative? I mean, I think a lot of it could be negative, but there's a lot of uncertainty here, guys. Lots of uncertainty.
USDA reported 2 flash sales of corn on Wednesday. U.S. exporters sold 16 million bushels of corn to Mexico for delivery during the current marketing year, and U.S. exporters also sold 11 million bushels of corn to unknown destinations for delivery during the current marketing year.
We usually do the flash sales toward the end, but we're doing them toward the beginning today. It's a fairly sizable flash sale again to Mexico and some more to unknown destinations. This was in print yesterday in the New York Times. I believe Mexico signals it could hit back at U.S. with tariffs of its own. So Mexico already threatening retaliation. Does that involve corn? And if so, where else does Mexico get the corn if they don't want to buy corn from the United States? It just makes so much damn sense for Mexico to buy corn from the U.S. It wouldn't really make sense for them to buy corn elsewhere. Does that mean that some sort of tariff is impossible? No, wouldn't rule it out. Mexico has been buying a lot of U.S. corn at a much swifter pace than they typically do. The general consensus among traders and analysts is that the Mexican corn purchase program is being front loaded. They want to buy corn before Trump gets into office, before a trade war starts. Total U.S. corn exports, and Mexico has a lot to do with this, are the third best of the last 10 years. And Mexico has a lot to do with Japan has something to do with this. We've got a lot of sales to unknown destinations. And again, the theory here is not that there's just this overwhelming demand for U.S. corn. It's that global buyers are front running a Trump presidency. And that's an opinion. That's not a fact. Maybe this export program is just runaway really solid, despite an incoming Trump administration. The thing about corn exports is that we ship most of them after the time that Trump's going to be inaugurated. Like March, April, May are your biggest months for corn shipments. So I can't help but wonder in the back of my head, like, okay, if Trump really proceeds with tariffs and there's retaliation, is that window, that March, April, May into June window, our prime time U.S. corn shipping season, are some of these shipments going to be in jeopardy, even though the sales are on the books? Could you see cancellations? Could China cancel soybeans? Could Mexico cancel corn? You just don't know. There's so many uncertainties right now. I'm pleasantly surprised by how the markets are acting, but a lot of uncertainties.
So if you guys have not checked out our premium content, you sure need to do so. Joe, can you tell me about some of this week's premium videos?
Pete Meyer was on yesterday. We discussed a lot of the Trump administration implications. The EPA pick, Lee Zeldin, we discussed in detail. The Department of Government Efficiency, what exactly could that mean for the markets? It is a mess, and that was part of the headline here. What a mess! There's so many things going on. It's very difficult to digest all of it. But Pete did a pretty good job. He was on for half an hour yesterday, and we discussed all of this stuff. On Monday, I did a video regarding the funds and corn market. So the funds are net long the corn market, or at least they were as of last Tuesday. Not sure where they stand in real time. How do you use this as a farmer? Can it be used as a grain marketing tool? I believe that it can be used as a grain marketing tool in the right situation. And there's some context here. I had 10 charts that were available via PDF download. Highly recommend that you guys check that deal out. Give the premium deal a shot today, guys. Go to standardgrain.com. You can sign up. It takes like 30 seconds to do on your phone. It's $50 a month. You can cancel at any time. You'll get our morning email every single business day at 5 a.m. Central Time. Our premium videos are out every single business day at 10 a.m. Central Time. All of my cash grain marketing recommendations are included here. It takes about 30 seconds to sign up on your phone. You can do Apple Pay, Google Pay, Cash App, credit card, piece of cake. Give that deal a shot this morning, guys.
The Rosario Grain Exchange raised its forecast for Argentina's soybean crop. The exchange is forecasting the 24-25 crop to reach between 53 and 53.5 million metric tons, up from its prior estimate of 52 to 53 million metric tons. The increase was due to rain in the second half of October, which allowed farmers to boost their planting pace. The exchange lowered its estimate for this season's corn crop to between 50 and 51 million metric tons, down from the previous estimate of 51 to 52 million metric tons. The reduction was attributed to drought earlier this year. The dry conditions also resulted in a cut to the wheat crop estimate, which is now seen at 18.8 million metric tons, down from 19.5 million metric tons.
Big picture right now, mid-November, there's no real degree of concern with regard to South American production. Looks like Argentina's in good shape. Looks like Brazil's in good shape. And if there's a problem, you'll know it. You'll see it in the soybean market, and it'll happen very quickly. We don't have a problem right now. Argentina's forecast isn't fantastic. A lot of your key soybean areas are going to miss the rains, although these forecasts, the location can be variable. They may not be correct, and maybe some of these key soybean areas do catch the rain. For the moment, they believe they're in good shape. Brazil is going to see rainfall as it normally would this time of year, and most of your soybean areas will see normal to above normal rainfall. So we don't have a South American weather threat. It's early. They're not done planting. But if it were to turn dry and you get a dry forecast for a week or two, that would be enough to rally the soybean market, in my opinion, despite everything you've been told about bearish fundamentals and the trade war. Dry weather in Brazil would be a big deal if it were realized. We just haven't seen it yet.
More news about ADM. The company's compliance chief is departing amid accounting turmoil. ADM reported that Ben Bard is leaving due to personal reasons and will depart from the company early next year. Bard was responsible for global compliance and internal audits. The announcement comes as ADM discovered more accounting errors last week. Earlier this year, the company discovered accounting errors, which led to an SEC investigation and resulted in the departure of its CFO. The situation has caused ADM to lose nearly $12 billion in market value.
The bad news keeps on coming. The stock did not fall on this yesterday. It kind of has stabilized in the low 50s. We ran the stock charts earlier this week. We're just kind of trying to stay on top of this. Did he really leave because of personal reasons? Highly doubtful, but that's what they say,
Consumer prices edged higher in October. The Labor Department reported on Wednesday that consumer prices last month increased 0.2% compared to September. Annually, prices increased by 2.6%, up slightly from the 2.4% rise recorded in September. Both readings were in line with expectations. Housing costs contributed to over half of the annual increase, with costs rising 4.9% over the past 12 months. Futures markets are now pricing in about an 80% chance that the Fed will cut interest rates by another quarter point at its December meeting. Some experts are skeptical of another rate cut due to Donald Trump's anticipated inflationary policies.
The Fed has kind of quietly said in not so many words that its revised inflation target is actually slightly higher than 2%. Maybe it's 2.5, maybe it's 2.6. I think they're comfortable with this. Here's a really good chart of inflation and how it has worked, how economists see inflation and how consumers see inflation. How do economists see it? Well, they look at this annualized year over year change, which is 2.6%. How consumers see it, things are more expensive than they've ever been. And the actual index, which is this blue line, if you guys are watching, it goes up and posts fresh highs, all-time highs, every single month for the most part. It's just that the rate of inflation, the rate of that slope has declined slightly. So yeah, nobody's saying things are getting cheaper. It's just the level of inflation has kind of leveled out for the time being, at least. And that's I think there's some implications here with the Trump White House. I mean, the tariffs are believed to be inflationary. The deportations are believed to be inflationary. Is that actually what happens? We don't know, but this is something we got to keep an eye on. What did cattle do yesterday?
Cattle futures were mostly unchanged. Live cattle were 37 cents lower to 22 cents higher. Feeders were 35 cents lower to 90 cents higher. Box beef was lower. Choice ended the day at 306.94. That was down $1.33. Select ended the day at 278.66. That was down 126.
We got some movement in the outside markets this morning. U.S. dollar is up. Stocks are just fractionally higher. Bonds are mixed. Gold's down $31 this morning. Silver also down sharply, getting beat up. Crude oil is up 38 cents in the December WTI at 68.83. Have a great day, guys. We'll talk to you Friday morning.